You know that feeling when you just can't stop turning something over in your head? Most people call that a problem. But what if overthinking is actually trying to do something useful for you?
What are the advantages of overthinking?
Yes. Well, the thing people miss about overthinking is that, at its most functional, it is genuinely superior to guesswork. You see, when you slow down and actually examine a decision, you start catching the hidden assumptions embedded in it, the ones you'd otherwise waltz right past. You run through scenarios. What if this fails? What if that condition changes? You compare options with some rigor rather than simply going with the first, plausible sounding one. And crucially, you begin to spot what I'd call second order consequences, the downstream effects of a choice that only become visible when you think more than one step ahead. Now, is this useful for deciding what to have for lunch? No, frankly. But for financial decisions, health, career moves, negotiations, anything where one small misstep compounds into something considerably worse? Absolutely worth the extra thought. Put simply, it's not about worrying more, it's about thinking precisely enough to avoid preventable errors.
What are the advantages of overthinking?
Okay, so I know overthinking gets a bad name, but I don't know. Hear me out for a second. Because when it's actually working properly, it's basically like an internal scanner, right? Like it's running through everything before you commit, and that's not nothing. That's actually really useful. Like, say you're going somewhere unfamiliar, or starting something new, or trusting someone you don't fully know yet, naively just assuming it'll all be fine, that can genuinely get you hurt. But if you've already thought through the red flags, checked the details, worked out a backup route before you need one, I mean, yeah, you feel a bit anxious, but you're also just better prepared. It takes all that scary, vague uncertainty and actually turns it into specific things you can manage. I don't know, I think that's the part people forget. The worrying isn't the point, it's the list of real risks you end up with at the end. That part's actually helpful.
When something is chaotic or unclear, overthinking is how I convert it into something manageable. I do not find chaos comfortable. Most people do not, if they are honest. So what overthinking does, when it is working correctly, is it takes a messy situation and begins to structure it. You create a plan. You build a timeline. You write the checklist. You identify the steps. Before a big meeting, before a move, before a complex project, I think through the variables in advance so that I am not reacting in the moment. That is the advantage. You reduce the number of surprises. You design routines and systems that hold up under pressure rather than improvising when things go wrong. People sometimes say this is excessive, but I would argue that the discomfort of thinking it through carefully once is significantly smaller than the discomfort of being caught unprepared. Overthinking, in this context, is simply preparation done thoroughly.
What are the advantages of overthinking?
Okay, so wait. Here's what's actually interesting about this. Because most people think of overthinking as like spiraling, right? Going in circles and getting nowhere. But that is technically not what's happening when it goes well. When it's working, you're not spiraling, you're exploring. You're asking better questions. You're noticing patterns across different situations that you would completely miss if you just moved on too quickly. Like, think about when you feel off about something but you can't name it. If you just ignore it, nothing happens. But if you sit with it and actually start pulling it apart, suddenly you're asking, okay, what triggered this? Where have I felt this before? What's the actual pattern here? What could I try differently? That's not rumination, that's investigation. And the output is insight, actual, genuine insight. You go from this vague, uncomfortable feeling to a real understanding of what's happening, and that understanding leads to smarter choices. That is a massive advantage, and I think people underestimate it all the time.
Oh, babe, let me tell you something. You know when you replay a conversation in your head like probably way too many times, and somewhere around the fourth or fifth replay, you finally figure out what you actually wanted to say? That is not a waste of time, sweetheart. That is your mind doing the work. Because in that replay, you are finding your words. You are processing what you felt. You are figuring out what that experience even meant. And sometimes that turns into something. A song, a story, a joke you tell later that makes everybody lose it. A boundary you finally know how to name out loud. Overthinking can be where creativity lives, honey. It is where you rehearse who you are and what you actually stand for. It is where you go from, I do not know how I feel about that too. I know exactly what I think, and I ain't afraid to say it. That is not noise. That is clarity working itself out.
What are the advantages of overthinking?
My child, overthinking has earned a reputation for exhaustion and that reputation is not entirely undeserved. But a tree does not grow its deepest roots in easy soil. The mind that turns a thing over again and again is often trying to do something wise. It is trying to see what is coming before it arrives. It is trying to find the shape of something uncertain. It is trying to hold an experience long enough to understand it. The thinking becomes a problem only when it stops producing anything, when it circles without landing, when preparation becomes a way of never beginning. But when it lands, when it becomes a clearer choice, a seen risk, a mapped plan, a found word, it has done its job. A thought that moves you forward, even slightly, was never wasted. The mind that lingers is often the mind that cares enough to get it right.
If you made it this far, you're gonna want to see what comes next. Hit subscribe so you don't miss our next video, and click the video on screen now to keep learning more. See you in the next video.